In the quiet Kansas town, Elena Stone's children rushed to her home upon hearing of her passing, driven by the allure of her inheritance. But they're about to discover something that will change their lives forever. As winter blankets the world outside, an unexpected twist unfolds, shattering their expectations. What secrets lie behind the closed doors of their mother's room? Elena Stone stood by the window, gazing out at the winter wonderland that had enveloped her Kansas home. Snow covered every inch of the landscape, turning the world into a pristine white canvas. It was a picturesque scene, one that would bring joy to most. But for Elena, it held bittersweet memories. The kids will have a lot of fun, she thought, her breath creating a fog on the glass. Elena had always cherished the simple pleasures of life, like watching her 3 children play in the snow, their laughter echoing through the cold air. Those days, however, seemed like distant echoes. After savoring the wintry view, Elena turned her attention to the kettle on the stove, preparing a cup of tea. She knew that her dear friend, Rose Wells, would be visiting soon. Rose was not just a friend. She was the administrator of the orphanage that Elena had taken under her wing many years ago. Their bond was built on mutual respect and affection, but also carried a deeper purpose. Long ago, when Elena was not the frail woman she had become, she and her husband, Peter, had cultivated a thriving agricultural business. Their farm had thrived, and their produce was sought after across the nation. They had been the embodiment of success, not only as entrepreneurs but as a couple deeply in love. Yet tragedy had struck, leaving Elena a widow just days before their 40th wedding anniversary. Despite their wealth and prosperity, Peter's loss had left a void in her life that nothing could fill. She missed him every day, especially when she looked out at their once bustling farm, now managed by Sebastian, the loyal farm manager. Ryan, their oldest, had tried to follow in his parents' agricultural footsteps, but struggled to keep the business afloat. Without Sebastian's dedication and expertise, the farm might have crumbled. Sally, Elena's only daughter, had pursued beauty and luxury, while Howard's passion for travel was a costly indulgence. Elena had retired 3 years ago, her body no longer able to withstand the rigors of farming. She had lived a solitary life in the vast house she and Peter had built. She rarely asked her children for help, believing they were too occupied with their own lives. Her children's infrequent visits and calls seemed to confirm her beliefs. But on this cold morning, a loud knock on the door disrupted Elena's thoughts of the past. A smile spread across her face as she saw Rose's Porsche parked outside. Elena had been expecting her friend for a while, understanding the challenges of navigating the snowy streets. Eagerly, Elena welcomed Rose into her home, a warm embrace shared between old friends. They settled in the cozy kitchen, sipping tea as they always did. Their conversation began with mundane topics like the weather, but Elena knew that Rose had more on her mind. She anticipated the unspoken request for financial assistance that often accompanied Rose's visits, given the orphanage's needs. As Elena and Rose sipped their tea in the cozy kitchen, the unspoken tension in the room was palpable. Rose had always been a forthright and dependable friend, but today there was something different in her eyes, a mysterious gleam that Elena couldn't ignore. After a few minutes of discussing the weather and the well-being of the orphanage kids, Elena couldn't contain her curiosity any longer. She had known Rose for many years and had shared their hopes, dreams, and secrets, but today felt different. "Rose," Elena began cautiously, "I can sense that there's something on your mind, something important. You know you can always confide in me, right?" Rose nodded, her expression serious. She knew she couldn't hide her intentions any longer. "Elena, I've been thinking about your children, Sally, Ryan, and Howard, and the situation they're in. It pains me to see how distant they become from you and from each other." Elena sighed, a mix of sadness and resignation in her voice. "I tried my best to raise them, to instill the values that Peter and I held dear, but they've grown apart, chasing their own desires and dreams." Rose leaned in, her eyes locked onto Elena's. "I understand your concern, Elena, and I believe there might be a way to bring them back together, to make them realize the importance of family." Elena's curiosity deepened. "What do you have in mind, Rose?" Rose outlined her plan meticulously, and as Elena listened, her emotions shifted from surprise to intrigue and finally to cautious hope. The plan was audacious, one that involved orchestrating a dramatic turn of events in the family, a ruse that would force her children to come together. Elena couldn't help but feel a spark of excitement, a glimmer of hope that her children might find their way back to each other and to her. She knew it was a gamble, and she worried about the consequences of deceiving her own flesh and blood, but deep down she yearned for a rekindling of the family bonds that had once been so strong. After Rose had laid out her plan in detail, Elena sat back in her chair, her wrinkled hands trembling slightly. "It's a bold plan, Rose, and it carries risks. But I'm willing to go along with it if it means a chance to bring my children back into each other's lives." Rose nodded, her expression resolute. "I'll do everything in my power to make it work, Elena. We'll need to act quickly and decisively, but I believe it's the only way to remind them of the importance of family." As the two friends shared a determined look, they understood that the path ahead would not be easy. But the prospect of reuniting a fractured family, of rekindling the love and support that had once defined the Stones, was a goal worth pursuing. The mysterious plan had been set into motion, and Elena couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope that brighter days were on the horizon. The following morning, Elena Stone awoke to a strange sensation in her chest. As she slowly opened her eyes, she felt a sharp, burning pain radiating from her left breast. Panic surged through her frail body as she attempted to sit up in bed. She knew something was terribly wrong. Struggling to reach the phone on her bedside table, Elena's trembling hand finally grasped the receiver. With each labored breath, she managed to dial 911 before collapsing back onto her bed. The pain was excruciating, and darkness threatened to engulf her. Minutes felt like hours as Elena lay there, her life hanging in the balance. The dispatcher assured her that help was on the way, but every passing second seemed to stretch into eternity. She clung to consciousness with sheer willpower, her thoughts a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. Soon the sound of sirens pierced the quiet morning air, growing louder and closer. Elena's heart, already under immense strain, pounded in rhythm with the approaching ambulance. She prayed silently, clinging to the hope that she would survive this ordeal. Paramedics burst into her bedroom, their faces a mix of urgency and determination. They quickly assessed her condition, administered medication to stabilize her, and placed her on a stretcher. Elena felt a sense of relief wash over her as they worked swiftly to save her life. In the ambulance en route to the hospital, Elena Stone's mind drifted between consciousness and the looming specter of death. She thought of her children, Sally, Ryan, and Howard. Would they rush to her side when they heard about her condition? Or would they remain distant, consumed by their own lives and concerns? As the ambulance screeched to a halt in front of the emergency room, Elena's vision blurred, and she knew that she had narrowly escaped the clutches of death. The medical team rushed her inside, and her world faded to black. Meanwhile, back at her home, Rose Wells received a call from the hospital informing her of Elena's condition. She knew that this was the moment she had been dreading, the moment when a plan would be put into action. With a heavy heart, she made the necessary calls to Elena's children and Sebastian, alerting them to their mother's dire situation. Sally, Ryan, and Howard received the news with a mix of shock and apprehension. Despite their strained relationships with their mother, the thought of losing her forever weighed heavily on their hearts. They dropped what they were doing and hurriedly made their way to the hospital, each wrestling with their own emotions and regrets. As they gathered in the sterile hospital waiting room, the three siblings exchanged uneasy glances. The looming specter of their mother's mortality forced them to confront not only her impending fate, but also the fractured bonds of their family. Elena Stone's heart attack had brought them together, but the question remained, would it be enough to mend what had been broken for so long? In the dimly lit hospital room, Elena Stone lay unconscious, her frail form connected to a labyrinth of monitors and IV tubes. The steady beep of the heart monitor provided the only audible reassurance that life still coursed through her veins. Sally, Ryan, and Howard sat in tense silence, each lost in their thoughts as they watched over their mother. The sterile hospital room seemed an unfamiliar and unwelcoming place, a stark contrast to the opulent family estate they had grown up in. Despite the strain that had characterized their relationships with Elena in recent years, the sight of her lying helpless in a hospital bed triggered a flood of memories. They remembered the times when their mother had been vibrant and strong, the heart and soul of their family. Guilt and remorse gnawed at their hearts as they contemplated the years of neglect and estrangement. Suddenly the door swung open, and Rose Wells entered with a soft smile on her face, her presence offering a glimmer of comfort. She had been informed of Elena's condition and had rushed to the hospital to be by her side. Seeing Elena's children gathered there, she felt a mixture of hope and trepidation. "How is she?" Sally asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Rose approached Elena's bedside and examined the monitors briefly. "She's stable for now. she replied, her gaze shifting between the siblings. "But she'll need time to recover." Ryan, still visibly shaken, spoke up. "What happened, Rose? Why didn't she tell us about her condition?" Rose hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "Your mother had her reasons, but now isn't the time for blame or recriminations. What matters is that she's here and she's fighting." Howard, who had remained uncharacteristically quiet, finally broke his silence. "What can we do, Rose? How can we help her?" Rose nodded approvingly. "First, you can start by being here for her. She needs your love and support more than ever. And second, you can listen to what she has to say when she wakes up." Sally, Ryan, and Howard exchanged puzzled glances. "What do you mean?" Ryan asked. Rose leaned in closer, her voice hushed. "Your mother has something important to discuss with all of you, something that she believes can change the course of your lives." A sense of intrigue and curiosity settled over the siblings. They had never seen Rose so cryptic and mysterious. "What is it?" Sally inquired, unable to contain her curiosity. "You'll find out soon enough," Rose replied with a knowing smile. "For now, let's focus on her recovery. Elena is a strong woman, and with your love and support, she'll pull through." As they sat by their mother's bedside, the sense of impending revelation hung heavy in the air. Elena Stone had orchestrated a miraculous reunion, and her children were about to embark on a journey that would challenge their perceptions of family, responsibility, and the true meaning of inheritance. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and this other story that may be appearing on the screen will most likely move you as well. Have a nice day and see you in the next video.